Alrighty, let's try it again because I did the whole thing once and didn't film it. So we're doing soil today, the next bit of enviro. So essentially, some of you may have heard that life on Earth depends on 15 inches of topsoil and the fact that it rains, because all of our food crops are grown in just a little bit of the Earth's crust. It's quite important that we understand a lot about how soil works. There's a lot going on which I'll share with you in more detail as we go, but right now we're just having the basic introduction. So 3 main soil types, and I can show you 2 of them here today in my own garden. So we categorize soil mainly on the size of the particles because that impacts on the way that water runs through it. Larger particles are sandy soil, and those are more than 1/2 mil apart. If we have a look, this is from my garden. It's pretty sandy, and you can see the size of the particles, more than 1/2 mil. Clay soil is the very fine one on the other side of the spectrum, which I can't show you now, but for any of you who've done pottery, very fine grains, less than 0.2 mils apart. And in the middle, this is some really good potting soil, which has got some organic material in it. That's 0.2 to 0.5 mils on average. So we have abiotic factors in soil, which abiotic components, the air, the water, and the actual minerals. So the amount of air will be impacted by the size of the grains. And then we have all our organic content, decaying organic material, which is great, and the living microorganisms. So this is actually some really cool mushroom compost. And if we look inside, you can probably see those white things are mycelium runners from the mushrooms. So that is what is the kind of like the roots of mushrooms. They run right through the soil all around the world, really, transport nutrients and information between plants, and between the environment and themselves, and the environment and each other, different trees. They're kind of like the internet and the Amazon of the planet all rolled into one. So I've got some of those in these jars. That's a sandy one. That's a nice potting soil, the mixed loam, and this, just for laughs, is a bit of the mushroom compost. We're going to do 2 experiments. The one is essentially the soil profile. So we're going to stick water in each of these. We'll give them a shake, and then we leave them to settle for a day or 2, and you'll see their layers forming up nicely. A little bit of water going in there. And now we'll close them up, shake them up, and let them stand. We'll come back and check tomorrow. Right, now the next one, I haven't actually bought a cup to measure, but we can somewhere do it by eye, is how quickly the water will run through the soil. So if I pour for maybe 2 seconds, we'll see how quickly it goes through each one. So what we've got here is generally in the Cape hydrophobic soil, which is interesting. It's not the same as normal sand because it shrugs off water. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one is 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one is 1, 2, 3, 4. Check straight in there on the compost. Nice and gently in on the perfect soil. So sandy soil would generally run straight through, but because our soil in the Cape is hydrophobic, I beg your pardon. In other words, it hates water. You've seen this, I'm sure, in your gardens at home, where it sort of shrugs off the water. That's from thousands of years of fynbos waxy coatings getting into our soil and actually coating the grains. And it means water can only really penetrate through animal holes and things like that into Cape Floral Kingdom sandy soil. So you got to put a lot of organic matter into it, or some people even use bentonite, which is the kind of clay stuff you make farm dams from, which holds water and increases the water retention of the soil. I think pretty straightforward there. You can see how the organic material sucked up the water. This one, as far as mainstream experiments around the world with sandy soil goes, doesn't show the same. I'll try and get some sand off building site somewhere when I'm around and show you properly, or if you have some at home and you can do your own. But it shows our Cape hydrophobic soils really, really well, in fact. But what we will find a little bit later when we come back is that the soil hasn't held any of the water. I'll show you just now how moist the other two are in comparison to this one, where the water will just pass through it and out the drain holes at the bottom eventually. There it already comes. And these guys won't have any drips coming out of them. So there we go. That's the beginning of soil. I'll show you. Oh, almost forgot. So we're going to do something else here. We're going to have a little bit of fun with a mini worm farm. These are actually our school worms. So let's put some, they like this, bit of compost in there, bit of good soil in there. Earthworms are absolute all-time favorite snacks are avocados. So this is an avocado pip actually from the compost. And when I looked in there, there were some worms in there already. Yep, check. There's a little baby one inside the avo pip. Let me see if I can get it. Can you see him? Yeah, there he is. Moved in. Check him in there. Let's put this down. So, red wrigglers. Mostly we get here red wrigglers or night crawlers. So these look like red wrigglers to me. And then what I'll do is I'll start putting some snacks on top, and we can keep an eye on them as the weeks go by. See if we get baby red wrigglers over some more in a crate. So we'll see how that goes.